I look really weird when I do it.
You got to do it.
Okay.
You got to do it. This is amazing. Uh-huh. Oh, wait. I ruined it. Do it again.
No, I'm not doing it again. Dear Shandy. Welcome back to Dear Shandy, listeners and viewers. We have a caller today.
We do.
Yes, which is exciting. We always like callers. We've discovered in this process in the podcasting world that a lot of you have questions, but not a lot of you want to come on and talk about that.
Yep.
So we're extremely thankful to our caller today, Gabby, for having the balls to come on. Gabby, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me and for finding my question interesting enough to even have me on. I thought at most that you might answer it or might not. So I think it's very fun to actually be able to have a conversation with you. So I'm really excited.
I remember your question standing out to me because I was like, oh, we'll have a lot to say about this.
Yeah. We will have a lot of questions.
Yes,
something
we will
you're not
also
familiar
have a lot
with.
of questions for you. Okay, so why don't you tell us your region, your city, if you're comfortable, but just sort of your general location and your age, and then your conundrum.
Okay. So I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm 29 years old. So as you can imagine, the dating pool is pretty big here. A lot of interesting people, a lot of different backgrounds. So it's always kind of fun to kind of date around. But also with that, a lot of added frustrations, which I'm going to share with you today. So I guess, do you want me to start with my question or with my story? And I can kind of tie it in.
I start with your story, and then I have a feeling your question will be clear, but still, we love details, so don't leave them out.
So have you guys heard of the dating app Hinge? Do you know how it kind of works?
It's a friend. Andy's already grinning.
Don't ask me about dating apps.
Yeah, the man who thinks Honeybee is an app. It's like friends of friends, right? So you're sort of vetted by the fact that you have a friend in common.
Like I come across people that I've never met, but just kind of like in your circle loosely, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay.
So this app is different in that like you don't have to have a mutual interest to send someone a message to start their conversation. Which you think it would kind of be like a dumpster fire, but it's actually hasn't been like that bad or like weird messages at all. I would say there's like a low turnover rate. I think that's like the best way to describe it. And I also like it more because they give you more interesting prompts to kind of tell about yourself. So whereas like Bumble, for example, you kind of like write your bio, and it's kind of like the same thing where like I like going to local breweries, IPAs, like let's go to patio. It's kind of like more cookie cutter, I think.
Those kill me because it's like, who doesn't like going to local breweries?
Yeah.
Like, way to narrow it down.
Yeah, I love good food.
I just punched my own boob, by the way. I just punched
Oh, you punched your boob?
Yeah, I just went like, but anyway, let's pretend that didn't happen.
You got to punch the other one.
Okay. No, I don't think so.
Get even.
Even it up.
Okay. All right, continue.
Okay, so I started talking to this guy, and we'll call him John to keep his anonymity, I guess. So I started talking to this guy, John, and I start the conversation, and I don't remember how I started exactly, but like one of my go-to lines, I guess, is like, have you been on any fun summer adventures this summer or something like that, along those lines. And so we started having this conversation. It's not like super great. I can tell that like off that, like maybe we don't have a lot in common, but I'm trying to like remain positive and like give him the benefit of the doubt. So the conversation kind of goes where like I ask a question, he just kind of answers it. And he answered it in a way where it's like, that's kind of like the final, but that's like final, I guess is the best way to put it, where I can't like really banter back or like continue to ask another question off of what he answered. Mm-hmm. So it's like really hard to kind of keep the ball rolling. So then, and with that, he also isn't like prepared to ask me a question back. So it's just continuously me like asking the questions, which isn't very fun and not that great, obviously. So the conversation is continuing, and finally he asked me like, hey, like, do you want to meet at a park? And I was just like, oh God, like, I don't know, like, this isn't going super great. And I was like, maybe he's like super great in person, I love your facial expression, but maybe he's super like great in person, like maybe when we meet in person, like sparks will fly and conversation.
I do believe in that, by the way. Some people are just not good.
Yeah, I
typers.
once actually on, was it MySpace? Oh God.
People already know how old you are.
It was Friendster. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not that old.
Gosh.
So I was on, it was Match.
Match, okay.
And I met a girl who was the most amazing texter. Like I was having text conversations that were like, it was like Shakespeare. I was like, I'm gonna marry this girl.
Like the banter was so good.
It was so amazing. And she came to the city to spend the weekend with me. This is a first date. I was like, you're coming. We're like getting married. Like you're like a brilliant linguist. You're hilarious. You're quirky. She literally could not speak. Like she sat there and just stared. Like I would be looking at her and she'd be staring like at a 90-degree angle like this. Like
she was just totally different.
She was, I don't know, she was like an idiot savant or something. Yeah. She was like a genius texter and a horrible at being a human being.
It's a lot easier to be, articulate when you have time to type something out.
Yes, when you have time to think about it. But when you're not under the pressure of being in a human, like intimate situation. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I see the point like you're getting at, which is like, of course you'd want to meet a person in person because how they type, while it often does reflect a person's their compatibility with you, it's not always the case. So you went in optimistic.
You're hiding behind something. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was trying to be optimistic. And I guess I want to add the other layer of frustration where I feel like this is part of the game and I'm just like not good at it. But then it's just like I wait hours for like a stupid response, or even like the next day where I get like a haha, yeah, I guess. And it's just like, okay. So it's just like, you get these conversations and then you get stuff like that. And I'm like, I would say like I'm the glass is half full person. So I'm trying to be super optimistic. The world's kind of, not that great. Maybe he's really stressed. I'm thinking about all these things like,
please.
You're being too generous.
Wow, that's wow, you're literally like giving him credit because of the pandemic. That's amazing. Like, no, your personality is probably pretty good. It's just pandemic personality. It's not your fault.
I don't know. So I'm just trying to like give him better of the doubt. Okay. So we meet at the park and I picked the park because I know the park. And I was like, well, like I already have this is terrible, but I already had like an exit strategy. I was like, okay, I know the trails. I know relatively how long they will take to walk. Like if it's like, until it's not going great, we're going to take a shorter path and I can more gracefully leave, like more naturally. It's like, oh, we're at our cars already. Like I'll see you later. So like, that was probably
she's
like
got
a warning
her
sign in my
escape
mind.
routes. That's great.
Yeah, basically.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I had it all planned out. So we meet in person and like right away, it's like the same prompt again, where I keep asking the questions. And I wouldn't say that I'm opposed to like silences. Like that's totally okay. But I felt like it was like too long of a silence, but like I felt like I needed to fill it, but I was trying to give him the opportunity to ask me a question. So it was like, I guess like when I met him in person, I started to feel like it was more like an interrogation, you know what I mean? Because you're just always asking all these questions. And like, I'm also thinking I'm like really grateful we're not like at a patio, because to sit across from you and me asking all these questions would be like really, I don't know, like I wouldn't like, at least walking next to him, I don't have to look at him the entire time while I'm asking all these questions. And I feel like that'd be more weird. So
okay.
It's good
I have questions already, but I'm gonna wait until we get to
Okay. So I can tell it's not going great. So then I'm like, oh, we're definitely taking the shorter trail. And so we take the shorter trail and I'm just trying to get him to talk, or like I'm asking all these questions. And I will say he did ask me some questions, but he was more like echoing my questions, which is fine. And like I do that sometimes too, but it wasn't, and he wasn't putting an extra thought of thinking of something new to ask me. Right.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't
then
count.
Yeah. So, we get back to our cars and, maybe I should, I don't know. I was just like, I had such a great time, which was a lie. And like, I probably should have said that. And so after that date, we kind of texted a little bit, but then like, I just was just like, I'm done putting all this effort into someone that's very obviously, I guess, and my question to you is, and I guess I have like other theories that I have too, but like, what do you do when you're in that situation where you're constantly having to carry the conversation? You're the one keeping the ball rolling. You're always bringing up these questions.
It's like literally the story of my life.
It is. We talk about this a lot.
Yeah, this is what we'd have a lot to say about this. But I think first, I want to know, this is just in general, right? Like,
you're giving an example, but is this like a thing that's a recurring problem? This is just, you're giving like one example, right?
Yeah, this is one example. I will say that like, I'm not in that situation right now. Like I'm dating someone and it's not like that. But I would say that like, I've had it happen to me enough before I met the guy I'm dating now, where I was like, what is going on? And then I would also talk to my girlfriends and even like my guy friends too, and they would have the same problem.
Wait, so you're in a happy relationship?
Now I am.
So this is like a purely gratuitous question. I don't think she's not eligible. You're fired.
Well, okay, honestly,
this has to be a current problem.
Like, don't really scare other people from coming
sorry,
on.
It's okay. We'll give you a pass.
Okay,
No one's allowed to be in a happy relationship on this podcast.
Okay, so you are in a happy relationship now. So this is more just a general thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And, yes. And I want to say when I did ask this question, this like was happening. Like I went on this date like a couple weeks prior to me asking the question.
Wow, you moved fast. You already found a happy relationship in a couple of weeks. I'm impressed. So you don't have any work to do. Do you want me to start or do you want to start?
Shame on you. I'll start.
Okay.
So this is a very technical question.
Okay.
Do you feel discomfort when there is silence between you and a new date?
Yes. And I would say I'm like a pretty anxious person, and like I probably do ramble too much. I almost rambled to the email to you guys and I had to stop myself. So I would say so, yes.
Okay. So like how much time are you willing to allow to pass before you just jump in and start talking again? Like let's think of beats. Okay, I'm like okay, I'm you. I'm like, so nice day today, huh? Okay. Yeah. One. How long are we talking about?
Like 3 seconds maybe. I got
3
awkward.
seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting because I will say this, like there have been girls that I've dated, and by the way, we're both very anti no question asking. So I'm not defending these guys at all.
Yeah.
I'm just making a point is that when I have dated women who do talk a lot and sort of fill the space, I do find that I take a more back seat on the question asking. Okay. And I'm not blaming you for it. It's not your. I mean, you're in a happy relationship, so you're like I can say whatever I want about you. You're not even supposed to be here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
This is a sham. So what I'm saying is like I can think of the girls. Like I know who they are. Girls who just like never. I know like when there's an empty space, boom, they're going to be in there. Yeah. So like it's not that I don't want to ask them questions. It's that I'm kind of like. You're making it too easy. Like I'm just like, well, I'm just going to sit and receive because I know that it's just going to keep coming. So I'm going to say, well, we're going to get into how narcissism and vanity has caused an epidemic of men not asking questions, but we're going to get into that later. But I will say this, I think that on your end, now that you're in a happy relationship, this advice is meaningless.
Did I ruin it?
Let's assume this relationship ends horribly and you're out dating again. She's out dating in 3 months. She comes home, finds it with like 3 girls in bed. Okay. It's not necessarily going to happen, but it could happen. So I would suggest that you allow there to be more time. You just sort of like take a breath and just let him, dig himself a hole of not asking anything. Because if you don't give him a chance to sort of breathe and just feel the silence, he may just go into like autopilot and just be like, well, I'm just going to keep receiving from this girl.
And that's good advice even for now, I will say, because that like I recognize that I probably do still fill that void with the person I'm dating now. So that you are still giving great advice despite me ruining being in a
You don't deserve this.
I don't deserve it. But your other listeners do. I bet they
do. They do. They earned it.
Yeah, they
earned
it.
Am I receiving your baton now?
Yeah, receive.
Okay, thank you.
Here's the baton.
Thank you.
You got it? You sure?
We should have something. We'll use my lip.
Yeah, a talking stick.
I'm talking now. I wasn't expecting your take to be what it was, but I think it's excellent.
Oh, wow. That's
because
fantastic.
When I heard her story, I was like, oh, this guy, like he's a sack of shit who is self-absorbed and
he could be, by the way.
Did he seem like the kind of guy that like spends time in front of the mirror?
like his job was like a lawyer. So not saying that all lawyers are kind of narcissistic, but
that could be anything. Lawyer could go at it either direction.
They can go.
Yeah.
That's broad. So anyway, go ahead.
But my initial take on this was definitely, I mean, I've long thought there is an epidemic of just people not being curious enough about each other. And of course, that's fed by every form of social media and blah, blah, blah. I don't need to go into detail about that. But if you are constantly thinking about curating your online image, then it's only natural, especially as people start doing that at a younger and younger age, that it's going to... Can I ask how old he was?
27.
Oof. Did he have a lot of photos of himself or anything kind of... I know that's rich coming from me because every photo on my Instagram is of myself, but is in his case, was that the case?
I'm trying to think. Most of his photos were of himself. Like, I wouldn't say there were maybe like one with one of his friends or something. So definitely.
But like in a
selfies.
charming, selfies?
Like suit kind of thing, you know?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, suit selfies.
Yeah.
Suit selfies and like waxed chest, like half naked with underwear coming almost to pubic hair selfies.
That's a jump.
Very similar.
There's a lot in between those two.
I think they're in the same family.
I didn't see that on there. I just want to clarify.
I'm not saying he had those, but those are there.
But my initial take from your call was, because I didn't know that you were in a happy relationship.
So sorry.
That screw this guy. I was concerned if this was like a recurring theme for you, that maybe there would be something to observe in, how who reached out to who. And it's interesting that it was Hinge. So like the guy didn't do the reaching out, but also, you don't think that matters?
No, I was saying to these websites where the dating, God, I'm like 100. The dating sites where guys don't reach out.
I think
it sets a bad
too easy. I agree.
precedent.
It sets a bad precedent because
Like Honeybee.
Like Honeybee. Well, your current match, did you meet him on Hinge?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And who reached out to?
He did. He did.
The no questions asker, did he reach out or did you reach out?
I did.
I'm telling you, there's a connection there. There's a passivity there.
I agree.
I think that it's way too easy.
But again, this has happened several times before.
Yeah. So this isn't something, it's happened to often enough where a lot of frustration has come from it. Yeah.
What's your general type? If you can give me like a elevator pitch.
Oh dear. Historically, I do not have good taste in men. Besides the one now, I would say I've dated a few people that had addictive personalities, and so they were more selfish and couldn't really think beyond themselves. People like that.
What about them is appealing?
I tend to be more of a nurturing person, and I want to fix. So historically, my friends are listening to this and be like, dear God, Gabby, but it's totally true and they know it. But I would say, so I don't date, besides the person I'm dating now, historically not super kind or thoughtful people.
I like the way you keep caveating. It's everything she says, besides the person I'm dating now.
I'm just he's going to listen to this and he's going to be like, wait a second. So
he's like, I don't ask a lot of questions. I'm insecure. I'm a jerk. I'm selfish.
Wait, so why was this one different? Why were you attracted to one who suddenly you didn't need to fix and who wasn't self-absorbed?
Or are you fixing him?
Or are you fixing him?
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm fixing him. I guess I've had a year between my last boyfriend. And it gave myself a lot of time to really reflect and kind of do some working on myself and kind of recognize the things that I do and what I think I need to do for a partner. I shouldn't have to fix someone. I shouldn't have to be their mom basically and do all that stuff. So then I was just okay, I wrote everything down that I want in a partner, someone that I want to date, just to kind of have
I love that you did that.
Yeah,
I really believe in that, doing your homework.
True, yeah. And I feel I wrote it down when I wasn't dating someone, so it wasn't biased. I was writing about this person, I'm not dating anybody, to really reflect the things that I need and want in a partner. So that was like really helpful. And I kept going back to it too. Like, okay, does this person kind of fit these things?
Wait, so you would say that between the last relationship and this current one, which to be fair is only a couple weeks old, correct?
Yeah, like a few weeks old. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have something to say about that?
No, I was going to say that almost, like she gets a little pass on that. If it was like she was like 6 months into a good relationship, I'd be a little more sore about it.
Oh, about her calling with the...
Oh.
Andy's really caught up on the fact that you're happy.
I'm so sorry.
But I actually think this sort of can kind of pivot into also a conversation about how since your last relationship, you did do your homework. You literally wrote down what you were looking for. And now you're in the happiest or healthiest relationship you've had.
Yes, correct.
So far. I mean, it's a couple weeks in. You're still dating the representative, but nonetheless.
Yeah, so far.
I mean, I think in general, I think that the world tells young men nowadays that you don't have to take interest in other people's lives. Like
you think
it's all
men
about
more so than women?
The image that you project.
Yeah.
And I think, it's becoming an age-old argument now, but social media has created a pretty deep narcissism.
Yes.
Amongst young men and women. And it's far like, this may sound sexist, but I think it's more acceptable for a woman to be narcissistic physically, like you know what I mean, like sexy pictures and a lot of like self-indulgent. But for a man, it's very weak.
It's unbecoming,
very unbecoming. But it's also being encouraged very heavily. It's like an arms race of vanity amongst men. I've seen, like, it's so funny when I was a kid, this is something I would never have seen as a kid, like a group of men who seem, for lack of a better word, like, badass guys, like tough guys, right?
Yeah.
And I'll see them in the street and they're like taking selfies of each other with each other. And it's the weirdest thing. And I'm like, those guys back in the day, they were like, they were just like, oh, what's up? I don't know, like just guys being tough guys. But to see that makes me realize that it's so endemic. And like, that's the root, I think, of what we're seeing, of the lack of question asking. And we've experienced this.
Yes.
Like
it's probably one of my, no, I'm not going to pretend it's one of them. It is my single biggest social peeve. It's the kind of thing where I come home from hanging out with someone I maybe haven't seen in a while, and I'm deeply reminded why I don't see them very often. Mm-hmm. And poor Andy has to listen to me vent for like 2 hours about how much, how exhausted I am. Because it's exhausting to do. Mm-hmm. But I think what Andy like, if we're going to talk about this potentially helping other people, do you want to go into nervous energy?
Nervous energy.
Yeah. This was something we were probably saving for like first date do's and don'ts, and just not really in this context, but I can tell is kind of broaching it, and I feel like it's worth talking about.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Do you want to go or do you want me to go?
No, I mean, I'll speak on my experience.
Here.
Oh, thank you. So when I used to date, and I dated frequently, I would immediately notice nervous energy. Mm-hmm. And nervous energy always put me off. Okay. And I would compare, it's not a perfect counter, but I would say the counter to nervous energy is like being demure. Like sort of the exact opposite of nervous energy is sort of like, just sitting there like waiting with a very, seeming sophisticated and intelligent, right?
I think the issue with the word demure is that it can come off wrong. And when I know Andy's intention when using that word, it's more of like just intentionally, first of all, being intentional with what you say and what you do, one, and B, just forcing yourself to receive. It reminds me actually of singing with opera. They often say, stop giving to the audience, just let them receive you. And you can really tell a difference when a singer is like giving you versus just planting themselves and letting you receive. There's a drastic difference. And there is a passivity to that. And it's in many ways easier said than done. But when you talk about demure, I feel like demure can too often mean like meek or no, I think it can. Like it seems... what you more mean is that there's a balance of effort being given. You don't want to feel like it's coming at you.
It's exactly. It's basically like you feel like there's this engine that's revving and you can't stop it, and it creates a discomfort. And it's not super attractive, at least for me. I can't speak for other men, but I'm pretty sure that most of them would feel the same. I would prefer a woman, and I would assume a woman would prefer a man to sort of receive as well as they give, like sort of create a balance. And so whenever I was on a date with a girl who had that nervous energy, I felt like immediately, like I'm just going to sit back and receive. And also like,
because they're partly almost forcing it on you. Like you would have to be extra active to match that level of energy.
Yeah, it makes me like anxious about how much energy I'm gonna have to commit to really like engage with this person on an even playing field.
And we're not saying that's necessarily what you have. It's just when Andy went there, it made me think of this, because early in our relationship, we discussed this, and I had never heard this concept before. I feel like you came up with this. Did you come up with nervous energy?
I don't think I came up with the term, but I was very aware of it while I was dating.
Yeah. And
it was always at the very least a mild turnoff.
Okay. Like, would you say that you would not necessarily, to tie it into our story, where again, we're not saying that this is you, but I think this could be, I know there are people out there who do have this.
But it could be you when you're dating.
Who have
I don't know you when I'm on a date with you.
Yeah.
I only know you in a happy relationship when you're scamming a podcast. It's supposed to be helping people.
I felt a bit, you do not have to air this. I was thinking about that too. I'm like, what if they choose to share this because I ruined it? So yeah,
if we talk about it too.
I'm just messing with you.
If we talk about nervous energy, I've been wanting to talk about nervous energy. I thought we would just wait.
I will also say that I have experienced myself having nervous energy on dates, and as soon as I feel myself exhibiting that, as soon as I had felt myself exhibiting that, something like that, I knew the date was over. Like I knew I had screwed up for whatever reason, whether I was intimidated or I wasn't in a good place and I wasn't ready for it, or I don't know. I really was excited about the date and I didn't want to blow it. Once I felt that nervous energy, I was like, this is going to take a lot to fix, even just like 5 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So from my perspective as well, I was like, oh, nervous energy, it's over.
Well, like, did you do anything to like help overcome that? I guess
drink, a lot of drinking, enormous amounts of drinking.
A lot of drinking. Okay.
I'll say this on that note. It's hard to even. You said that actually. If I had been we talked about how I wasn't Andy's type, and how if I had really been in your sweet spot, maybe you would have been a little too jittery. So it's like there is just. It's like an element of just like keeping your cool. And I know that is like hard
and sometimes
to force yourself to do.
Like in music, like you were talking about opera, and I also played music in various forms.
You played music?
I played music, but the rests are where the beauty in music is. It's usually like the times when there isn't sound.
It's so true.
So I think that it's important to be aware of sort of taking a beat, like just taking a breath and being like, instead of filling this space with words, I'm just going to let the space be.
Okay.
And then come back. So, I feel strongly that that's something that it's kind of a trained thing if you're like kind of a real, like you're energetic person who just wants to keep talking. But I think it's important to learn how to do that, not just for dating, but just for any conversing, whether it be business or friends or anything.
I do think it's pretty transformative, honestly, because it immediately makes you maintain I always talk about like, not playing games, but you do maintain a sort of power by just, again, receiving, just being, the whole being intentional thing. And there is an air of mystery when you're not constantly giving
True.
words or information, intel, energy. It's easier to just be more mysterious, which is a harder and harder thing to be as a woman dating today, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because I feel like I have to do so much more to like keep their attention. You know what I mean? Like I have to.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like a lot of extra work.
Turn it on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're an attractive, interesting, intelligent.
29 is like
who's in a very happy relationship.
Is 29 is like creme de la creme. Like it's the perfect age.
Oh yeah.
I met Andy when I was 29. Yes, it's the best.
Really?
Yeah, it's
best.
And he said that when he heard I was 29, he was like, ding, ding, ding.
It's the magic one.
Yeah, because you don't want when a man is really serious, he doesn't want to date 22-year-olds anymore.
I was really worried she's going to be like 25.
Unless he is, I don't know, 24.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried you're going to be young.
Yeah, you were really worried that I was going to say I was 5 years younger than I was because you knew that the odds of it really working out would be far slimmer.
Yeah.
So 29 is a great age. That's the conclusion of this tangent.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, Gabby. But yeah, 29 is, to me, dating at 29 was really like, that's where it was at.
Yeah.
Until I ruined it.
It was a great time. Do you feel like we kind of, I feel like we went in a different direction than I was intending to with this call.
I don't know. I think we covered it.
Can you relate to what we're saying at all? Or do you think?
I think he still gave great advice because I still do ask a lot of questions. He does ask me more questions, but I definitely still have like, I don't know, I'm just kind of an anxious person, so I still have that, I guess, nervous energy that you were talking about.
For the record, sorry to interrupt you. For the record, I am the same in non-romantic social settings. Like when I'm with people who just make me feel a little off, or I feel slightly intimidated, or if it's a big group, like I know I have social anxiety depending on the social situation. Yeah. And I definitely, Andy knows, I'll either kind of clam up or I get very like, so like, and what does your like husband's,
it drives me nuts.
Brother's
it's
wife
so
do?
aggravating. Like, we'll be with this person who literally has not asked a single question for like 2 hours. And I'll be like, don't ask another question.
Yeah.
Do not. Oh, you asked another question.
Like, and how old is your dog?
Yeah.
It's so true. So my point is, I totally understand, but I think when it comes to romantic situations where you're interested, you know, obviously, if like you, no matter what, even when I'm not interested, you just want to like maintain, you want to hold on to some of that mystery. Yeah. Sorry, I totally interrupted you. I interrupted you to
totally
relate
fine.
to you. Please resume.
You're totally fine. I guess like the only other things that like maybe I was thinking like when they aren't asking as many questions is like maybe they're just like really shy, or they just like talking to a lot of other women, so it's just like difficult to manage like so many conversations.
Yeah, but if a guy is really shy, the only thing he should say is questions.
That's so true.
Questions. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well, because he probably, a shy person is less inclined to talk about themselves endlessly.
Of course. And otherwise, he's a child. You're literally sitting with a child, a guy who's shy and doesn't ask you anything about yourself.
Yeah.
That's a child.
Oh.
It's so true. Like, what function is he serving?
No.
Yes. It's true.
Yeah.
That sounds awful.
He's a vessel for seed. Like, what is
vessel for what?
Seed.
Oh my gosh.
I think you're being too generous to assume that a man in that situation is shy, personally.
Okay.
You're giving him too much credit. He's 27. He lives in a big city. He's a lawyer. He knows how to ask a fucking question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Good point.
He does.
Yeah.
So when this relationship ends horribly in 3 weeks, our charge is to go out and don't let people get away with not asking questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And receive.
Yeah. Receive.
Let the notes have the rests in between.
Yes.
Let the rests linger.
Yes.
And be okay with it and not be
okay
awkward about it.
Yeah.
Be okay with it.
Take an extra breath.
Embrace. If it's awkward, that is all the information you want.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It should never be awkward. It should never be awkward because you're not, blabbing away.
The key to any functioning relationship is golden silences. Mm-hmm. It's not like Andy and I sit around talk to each other.
I haven't spoken to Sharleen in 2 days. This is our first faux conversation.
It's hard to test, whether or not silence is golden if there is none.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
that's true.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay.
That's true. You should basically start your date like just sit down and not say anything. Like just be like,
So ask me a question.
Yeah, I start counting. Be like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you feel like we did we? Okay, I feel like she relates.
I think
That's
we're
good.
covered.
You relate.
Yeah, I think unless you got any, unless you have questions, you haven't asked us any questions.
Oh, terrible. I'm so sorry.
Just,
I'm receiving right now, so it's
you
fine.
are receiving.
Good.
You're doing
Received.
nice. Nice.
Well done.
Good job.
Well played, Gabby. Well played.
Bravo. Bravo.
Well, good luck with your current
Thank you.
beau.
Thank you. And thank you for being so gracious and kind. And except Andy, I guess. Sharleen, you've been wonderful.
It's called honesty.
I was being honest now. I really crossed my mind a lot. I was like, should I? But
No, I'm glad you did, because it actually does alter it alters how we perceive this question, because we know that if this happened to the last 10 guys you went on dates with and you were still single, then it would be like, okay, I think we'd be a little more like,
what am I doing wrong?
we'd be digging around a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a combo of going for the wrong guys, which you admit to doing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an element of nervous energy there. Maybe not. But regardless, you admit to filling silences unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. And yeah. Oh, and narcissism, which is rampant.
Yeah. Yes.
Yay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That was good.
That was a good. Yeah.
It's a good
we
question.
ended up covering things we did not intend to cover, but they applied. So there we go.
Yes,
And if anything goes wrong, you have we can give you a coupon to come back.
Thank you. I'll submit
When your
another
relationship-
question. It just lapses. It just fails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for rooting for me. I love the positive energy.
I'm actually helping you. I'm reversing the negative universal energy that might be
Okay, I
in
see.
your sphere.
This is Inception stuff. All right. Thank you, Gabby, for calling
Thank you so
in.
much for having
Thank
me.
you.
I appreciate it.
And
Thank you.
and despite what Andy says, best wishes with your
Yes.
relationship.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. Thank you. Bye.
Good luck. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So what did you think?
I thought that she touched on a very universal problem.
Yes.
That's, I think, important to, investigate. And, I think it's also important for women to sort of fight against this movement.
the social media movement.
Yeah. I mean, not that it's not a two-way street, but I think it's more like, and maybe this is old-fashioned. Is it old-fashioned? It's not old-fashioned. The guy should be asking questions, right?
Well, no, I think both parties should be asking questions, but certainly the woman should not be asking more questions.
No.
Unless the man's not interested. If he's not interested, then he can not ask questions.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, like to fight the movement, because when we talk about the chase, and I've been getting a lot of questions, by the way, from women about how do I create that chase?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that chase is something you can create. Chase exists. Chase can emerge when you are passive.
Yes. You can almost force it.
What? Force?
You can
the
force the chase.
No, how?
Because you're like a little rabbit. A little wee rabbit. Being chased by the fox.
I don't agree with that, because I think it's you have to have the right amount of like the breadcrumbing of like positive reinforcement. Especially now, because men do have so many options, you can't just be like, you can't fall off the face of the earth and expect him to chase you in this dating climate. You just can't.
Right.
But, we can kind of get into, I think we can get into it now. I always wanted to save nervous energy for first date do's and don'ts. And we can kind of, we have no rules at Dear Shandy. We can just talk about it now, what our first date do's and don'ts are.
I don't believe in rules. The only rule I have is there's no rules.
I definitely feel like that is something that is a problem with men and women, but especially women, because they want to stand out, and that men are hitting on women less in social situations because they don't need to, because again, they have hundreds of options at the tip of their thumb. So I think women go into a date thinking, I'm going to put my best foot forward and I'm going to show them how dynamic and fun and interesting I am. But it actually ends up working against them, not all the time, but I think some of the time, because it's just too much coming at them all the time, at the men. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you've been on the receiving end of that.
And, I also want to point out that there's also a nervous silence as well.
Awkward
It's
silence.
like antimatter. So there's like where there's a strong, confident silence.
Yes.
And then there's kind of like, I don't know what to say, and I'm nervous, and I think I might run out of this place.
But what's your point with that though?
My point is that you can't just receive. You also have to have a confidence in your silence,
Yes.
in your reception.
You have to stand by your silence.
Right. It can't be a nervous silence.
But I also think that it is a test to the level of compatibility when there can be a silence and you can just look at each other, or you can just have a moment where it's not awkward. Even on a first date, it doesn't always have to be all the time.
It'll get there. If it's gonna get there, it'll get there.
That was a good snap.
That was really
I'm
solid.
a little sweaty because the AC is off. Normally I have a very sloppy snap, but I'm like,
that's really good. Yeah, you can't whistle though.
I can't whistle.
Sharleen can't whistle.
I can't. It's really sad.
Very sad.
Okay.
It's amazing. You're such a good singer, but you cannot
I
whistle.
swear, I think it's because I have all my high notes in my singing, and therefore there's no high notes left in me for whistling.
I've tried to teach you how to whistle
Yes.
a bunch of times.
Don't make
not
me
even close.
Don't make me do it.
It's just like this, like yeah. That's not a.
It's a bird call.
What is that?
I don't know.
Oh, that's kind of. I mean, it's whistle-ish.
Okay, so first date. Maybe people actually want to know our first date do's and don'ts. I think we have. I know that based on our first date, you give good first date.
I give a decent first date.
I'm not good. Not to toot my own horn. I'm not saying that I am great.
You give
and all.
a tremendous
I give good first date.
Tremendous.
Tremendous.
I mean, look at me. I'm sitting here,
Married to
living with you. You give great first date, and you had the extra talent. What do you call it? I don't know.
Talent advantage.
Not
Talent.
Anyway, what you were able to do was
You totally just gave up on that sentence.
Yeah,
you didn't know how to make that sentence,
no
and you're
idea.
like, we'll move on.
I was going in bad places. There was a lot of ums that were about to come. But you were able to speak in such a metered, selective way that it was almost like you were pausing within your speaking. It was just so poignant. Like everything you said was so like it landed in the right places, as opposed to like blah, 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 blah. It was like metered. That's the best word I could think of.
You've never told me that before. That's such a beautiful compliment.
Well, this call inspired me to think about that.
Thank you.
And so while you weren't like just sitting there receiving, which is not, by the way, that's not at all what I was trying to suggest women or men should do. Like you don't just receive.
No, I'm not saying you just receive. I think you have to have the right balance.
More. You have to receive more.
No, not even more. You just have to receive as much as you give.
Or just receive more if you find that there's an imbalance. Like bring it down to equilibrium.
Yes. I think in the same way that one must think, have I been talking about myself too much? One should also think, have I been giving more than I'm receiving?
Absolutely.
In terms of energy, questions, all the things.
Just check in every once in a while with a conversation.
Yes.
But you were both sort of the demure. That's always the word I think of. You were just like so refined and sophisticated, and there was so much choice in your words, and there was no fluff. There was no chitter chatter. It was just so. I fell in love with your
I'm actually
speaking.
like truly touched because you've never told me that before.
Well, I've told you I fell in love with your voice.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the sound of your voice. It was the nature of your dialogue. It was so.
Wow.
It was like it was like song, and
that is so sweet. Thank you.
True. Anyway, it was the opposite of nervous energy.
I mean, to be fair, I felt an immediate confidence with you that when I'm into someone and I'm not sure if they're into me, which by the way, rarely happens because usually I need that like banter to be into someone in the first place. So it's very rare that I'm interested in someone who hasn't shown something to me that gives me the confidence to be interested in them. Does that make any sense? That was like very like twisted.
Yeah, I got that.
You know what I mean? Like I am full blown like sapiosexual.
Yeah.
I thought you were attractive, but if I talked to you for 5 minutes and didn't like what was, how you were and how you made me feel talking to you, then that would have never happened. But I do really believe in thinking about, I don't want to necessarily say thinking about what you say before you say it, because I do that all the time. I'll like start a sentence and then like jump off to a branch of another branch of another branch. We have tangents all the time. But you're right. It's just not filling the void with things that you're not even like aware you're saying.
Yes.
Even when you go off on a tangent, you want it to be intentional.
Your words should have some weight. You know what I mean? I mean, some people just, there's no thought. There's just it's just like a
Word
rattling.
vomit almost.
A lot of likes, ums.
Yeah, you have a real thing about likes and ums.
Yeah.
And actually, this whole podcast has made me realize, like, you really pay attention to your own little things that you say that are annoying and
Sure.
don't serve your sentence at all. If anything, they take away from your sentence.
Yeah.
I'm conscious. Oh my God, I just said like. I'm consciously trying to say and like, and less. But okay, first date do's and don'ts. Do you have any for women or men? I'm putting you on the spot. We weren't planning on talking about this, for the record. I'm looking at the camera now. This wasn't where we intended to go with this. I thought this episode was going to be about narcissism.
Well, there was a little narcissism in there.
There was a little. And apparently we should use the word narcissism with, an asterisk, because that is a term for
Yes.
personality disorder. And obviously we're not suggesting anyone who doesn't ask questions is definitely a narcissist, but they are self-absorbed. That I can say with confidence.
Right. Narcissism is bandied about a little too freely.
Yes.
But it is an actual condition.
Yeah.
So I will say this. First date, don't. When you start the conversation on a date, you should try to be extremely specific about your banter. So like, say like, oh, I don't know. I'm just making crap up, but like, I just saw this thing and that reminded me of this. And what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Like, don't just be like, so what do you do? I hate that. Like, oh my God.
I feel like that what you're really getting at is, to women, don't ask a man what he does is one of your first 3 questions.
That's one of the big ones.
Hated that.
Well, there's several things wrong with it. One is, and I'm not saying there's bad intentions, but it's lazy.
I think the bigger issue here is that you have a peeve, and you're not the only one. I know many men who feel this way. You can't stand it when it feels like the woman you're on a date with is husband hunting.
Yeah, interview. It's just an interview for a husband.
It feels like they are filing this information away, and they're like,
well, that was
like filling out, like ticking off boxes.
That's the second reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want it to feel like
it's contrived.
Yeah. Like you want the conversation to start about like, I don't know what color the walls are or something absurd.
There's nothing that's going to come that's positive of you sort of your opening salvo being, what do you do?
Yeah. It's usually trying to make conversation, but the problem is that conversation just about always looks the same unless you have amazing banter where it like manages to go off in a different direction. But the whole what do you do conversation, unless the person does something really off the beaten path, is going to look more or less the same.
But it's also, again, getting back to the laziness. It's a lazy opener, but it's also lazy in that you're trying to like, instead of finding out who this person is by like making a bunch of jokes or like talking about random stuff that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
You're trying to like cut to the chase and be like, I'm going to get all the info. I'm going to cubbyhole this person right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to find out. I know what they do. Okay. So you're this type of person.
I mean, that's a pessimistic way of looking at it.
It is a pessimistic way of looking at it, but we're talking about do's and don'ts.
Okay.
Dating is extremely ruthless nowadays.
Yeah.
People have enormous options all over the place. There's 1,000 apps. So you got to come out strong, and coming out strong involves, I believe, making the banter specific, light, maybe quirky, whatever it is. There's nothing more like, wet blanket than, so what do you do? Like, sit down like, oh, sorry, I'm late. Obviously, most girls were always late.
So wrong
It's so
to say.
true. Oh my God, so true.
It's so not.
Every girl watching is going to know this.
You're going to get a lot of hate for that.
A lot of hate. I honestly,
okay, what percentage of first dates have you been on where the girl was late?
How do we define late? Like I got there first and I was on time, or like a certain number?
Okay, first 5 to 20 minutes and then 20 minutes to an hour.
5 to 20 minutes, I would say 96%. Okay. But then that's a subset of, what is the next one? 20
minutes to an hour.
An hour is really, I think you go 20 minutes to 40 minutes.
Okay.
20 minutes for me. Yeah, that's probably like another, I don't know, 15%.
What?
15%.
Of the 96%.
Of the 96%.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn,
but
that's
at 96, I don't know if I'm exaggerating.
That's a lot of lateness.
When I got to a date and I was on time and the girl was there first, I was like, is there something wrong? There's something wrong with this girl. And that's it.
Did it make you more? Is that a don't?
No.
Does it make you any more or less interested in the
If
woman?
anything, I would say that being really late doesn't make me feel good.
I'm saying is a woman being on time does it make you more interested in her if she's like perfectly on time?
That's a really interesting question. There's a little too much time between me and my last, date, but
for the record, I was late our first date.
You know what? Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like late.
Like
I was in the 20 to 40
Yeah.
range.
It was borderline.
In my defense, we were meeting in a very difficult to find location and I got lost. It was one of those places where on the map it says you're there, but it's like the terrain is all uneven, and so you could be on top of it.
It was in a park.
It was in a very uneven, mountainous park.
But let's be fair, you're a little bit of a late person.
I'm not the most punctual person in the world.
Right. So I would say
I'm not proud of it.
I don't want to say this, and I am, but I'm perturbed when a woman is significantly late to a date. I just find it it's like a.
But clearly, you're not that perturbed because it didn't turn you off.
But I always find it, disrespectful. Like their time's more important than mine. But I get it. It's fine. My point is that when I get to a date and I'm on time and the girl's already there, I have to admit, and this is like, we're talking like the tiniest fraction of a feeling. Yeah. Like I have to admit, I'm like,
But like it's a bad sign?
Yeah, I'm like, why is she here so on time?
Oh my God.
Isn't that terrible?
That's fascinating.
I'm so trained to expect lateness that I think there's something wrong when she's there on time. Like she's not interesting.
Is there any...
Isn't that crazy?
She had nothing more interesting to do to be late from.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't have something to do for 15 minutes to not be here on time? Like, what, do you have nothing going on in your life?
Wow.
It's weird.
Okay, so here's my next question. When someone is late at all, does it make a difference to you whether they are apologetic or not?
Yes.
I think that's the key. That's why my lateness isn't that bad, because I'm really apologetic when I'm late.
You are you're apologetic when you're on time. Like you're always apologetic. So that doesn't really count. But I am literally turned on by a girl who apologizes for being late. Like it's an actual turn on.
What? Oh, interesting.
Because it just shows like maturity. It shows that they're aware that they are not the center of the universe. They're aware that their actions have repercussions.
Interesting.
And it's really important. I find it's pretty universal that the girl does apologize. I've rarely had the no apology, but I always find it a little weird when that happens. Like I always had found it a little bit weird, but they just sit down. They're like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And I'm like,
nothing happened. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So the first 20 minutes of our day was really interesting. But yeah.
Okay. So what's our next do and or don't? I think do for both genders is lean into your weirdness.
Yeah.
Like lean into, I'm not saying play up, but don't be afraid of letting the other person know the things about you that make you off the beaten path, make you a little strange, because those are the things, it sounds really cheesy, but they really are the things that make you special and different and stand out.
I couldn't agree more.
Every man that has taken an interest in me, I think was like, the thing that they liked the most was that, like the weird quirkiness.
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
You're going to have to be yourself eventually.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone is a little weird in some way or another. Some are more than others. But it's interesting to me when people just try to seem like kind of more together or like, I don't know, sophisticated or whatever than they are, instead of just leaning into that like little the side part of them that's super weird, because the person you would want to attract would be into that anyway. So it's kind of like a filtration system.
But that's what I'm saying. You're eventually going to have to be that person.
Yes.
So you might as well get it out of the way. You're going to save yourself a lot of time.
Totally. Like it makes it so much easier for all parties if you just are as yourself as possible. Oh my God, it sounds so trite, but it's true.
We give incredibly novel advice on this podcast.
But I think what we're saying is deeply true.
It's very true.
Yes.
And it's extremely important.
Yes.
It's like, you know what it's reminding me of? It's like everyone has a weird talent, right? Like some people can curl their tongue, wiggle an ear, lift an eyebrow.
Yeah.
I can lift my left eyebrow, but not my right one.
Try your right one.
There's nothing there.
Just try. You're not trying. Oh my God, that's crazy. You're just doing that to make a point. You can.
I am not making. There's nothing there. My brain is not connected to my right eyebrow.
I can wiggle my ears. You want to see? Here, I'll show the camera.
Can you wiggle one ear at a time?
Yes. So I'll do. Okay, I'll try to face. Did you see?
Yeah,
it?
I got that. That's good. You got a nice ear wiggle. What's interesting is I can wiggle my right ear, and I can't wiggle my left ear, and I can lift my left eyebrow, but I can't lift my right eyebrow.
I feel like you just haven't tapped into those muscles.
You can also move your pinky toe, which is insane.
But I worked on that.
Charlene spent apparently years of her childhood trying to.
I can also make a really good horse sound. But I'm telling you.
Oh, do the horse sound.
Oh, I'm embarrassed to do the horse sound.
Do it.
I look really weird when I do it.
You got to do it.
Okay.
You got to do it. This is amazing. Oh, wait, I ruined it. Do it again.
No, I'm not doing it again. The point is, I have never...
That part is the best.
I've never told a single man about my horse sound and had him been like, that girl's too weird for me.
I would say that if you had done that horse sound, like within the first hour of us meeting, I would have proposed to you like 3 weeks earlier.
Okay, so the conclusion of the horse sound, eyebrow lifting, ear wiggling, toe wiggling
there was a point there.
Is that weirdness works. It serves you. Be weird.
Yeah.
Embrace your weirdness. Whatever makes you
unique.
I feel like we can wrap there. Like you guys all know by now, we are sort of making this up as we go along. So if you liked the do's and don'ts, you let us know if that's something you would like an entire episode dedicated to, because we were not planning on talking about that today.
Nope.
Nor were we planning on talking about nervous energy, but I'm really glad we did.
Yeah.
I think that was like the golden nugget of the episode, if I'm honest.
Oh, definitely. Nervous energy is such an important issue.
You are very attuned. I feel like I can see it when it's really obvious.
Yeah.
But you can.
It makes the people who they're talking to uncomfortable. On top of the fact that it's
and
not
too passive.
Yeah.
Maybe intentionally passive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll wrap there for this episode of Dear Shandy.
Let's do that.
Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, let us know if you liked the direction we're going in. If you want more do's and don'ts, you let us know. And especially if you like what you heard, you should be subscribing to us and liking things and tapping notification bells and thumbs upping and whatever else you do when you like something you listen to.
So many things.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Dear Shandy.